For some time, people have speculated that Fallout and Elder Scrolls exist in the same universe. Sure, there's some minor connections, things like sweet rolls, the dragonborn's helmet appearing in a magazine, certain Art Deco sculptures resembling Dwemer architecture, along with a few other things. But these are just references. All of them, including everything from the Creation Club, isn't canon. So why are people still saying they share a universe? The first reason is because of a certain plant, glowleaf, also known as the experimental NRT. According to the experimental logs aboard the Prydwen, samples of the local flora were brought in for examination. Unsurprisingly, the samples were irradiated, though some of them did have promising properties, including the plant in question. Normally, a plant this small wouldn't be worth the effort. However, the root did have chemical properties not seen in other plants. So, pieces of the root were taken and grafted onto some hardier stock, resulting in a stronger, leafy plant with thick roots. Chemical analysis revealed the plant was safe to ingest, although it wasn't eaten. Instead, it was boiled in water, producing what the senior botany scribe explained as an oddly good cup of tea. Then, several days later, the plant started glowing, although it wasn't due to radiation but some sort of bioluminescence. Despite the new attributes, the senior botanist continued making tea, claiming it made them feel healthier. The others believed the tea was addictive, and the senior's behavior did change. They were more irritable and negative, or at least they were until they had their cup of glowleaf tea. As a result of this addiction, the senior botanist was reassigned. As for the plants, their appearance shares a striking resemblance to Nirnroot, and this is just one of the many things that's led to fans believing both Fallout and Elder Scrolls are in the same universe. Yes, glowleaf and Nirnroot look the same, they glow in the dark and are found predominantly near bodies of water, but they also have their differences. Glowleaf adds health, adds radiation, and is completely silent, while Nirnroot damages health, makes a chiming sound, and turns the consumer invisible for a few seconds. Suffice to say, they are different plants, and this isn't all that surprising because plant mimicry happens all the time. But what if these two plants are the same plant? How do you go from this to this? Let's say Elder Scrolls is the very distant future, and the simple answer is time. Time changes everything, from the landscape and the wildlife to the people and their beliefs. And yes, that also includes plants. While there's no proof to say this is what happened, there are smaller things that take us one step closer. At one point, Fallout 4 had an entire questline in which the player would travel to Danvers, the home of the real-life Salem witch trials. Whilst there, you would encounter a group of mutated children with magical powers, the same powers used in Elder Scrolls. The only reason this didn't happen was because incorporating the Elder Scrolls magic system into Fallout was too complex for the developers. Instead, the location was cut, as was the quest, which they replaced with the Devil's Due. Even though this magical mission was cut from the game, Fallout 1 does have something similar with Psychers. Despite not getting to see their abilities, we do know thanks to FEV experimentation that pyromancy, electromancy, telepathy, and telekinesis all exist in Fallout. Are these abilities not the sort of thing you see in Elder Scrolls? Is bringing dead ghouls back to life using radiation not the same as necromancy? Is Hakunin speaking to the Chosen One through dreams not the same as sight? Due to these things, it's easy to imagine that over time, thanks to radiation and viruses like FEV, the world could change into one where magical abilities are commonplace. As I'm sure you're all aware, Fallout has eldritch aspects too, deities and gods who people worship, but none of them are as notable as Ug-Qualtoth. Little is known about Ug-Qualtoth's true nature, though rumours of its existence date back to before the Great War, and we do see this ourselves through a particular vision inside the Dunwich Quarry. Likewise, we can learn about Ug-Qualtoth and its power through Constance Blackhall. After becoming a widow, she developed an unhealthy obsession for the occult, and with her newly inherited wealth, she was able to collect ancient books and powerful artifacts, one of which allowed her to converse with the forgotten god. In her efforts to please the god, Constance led a cult at Point Lookout both before and after the Great War. With the aid of her swampfolk followers and her ancient tome called the Crifbecnir, she conducted rituals and human sacrifices in the name of Ug-Qualtoth, and for her loyal service, she was given the blessing of longevity. But progress was slow, and she knew that in order to increase her own power, she needed more sacrifices. And that's why she brought her brother, Richard Dunwich, into the fold. Now Richard was the owner of Dunwich Borers LLC, a pre-war company that made its money creating drilling systems and mining marble. This company was an excellent front for their occult endeavours, because not only could they extract other ancient artifacts deep underground, but they could also sacrifice their workers and disguise their deaths as simple accidents. And this must have pleased the forgotten god, because somehow Richard knew where to construct the Dunwich building in DC, which just so happened to be above a subterranean chamber and the obelisk. To avoid any suspicion, Richard sent his staff home for the holidays, and for the next week he excavated and entered the chamber, just as the bombs began to fall. What happened to Richard after that is unknown, but he most likely became a ghoul, as did the employees at the quarry who found a similar discovery, the altar and the sacrificial blade known as Kremp's Tooth. We don't really understand how these things are connected yet, but it looks like each location has a place of worship and an item that needs to be used. Kremp's Tooth and the altar inside the quarry, the Crifbecnir and the obelisk inside the chamber. Either way, Richard disappeared, and Constance Blackhall lived for many more years before her book was stolen, after which her powers depleted and she died. As for the person who stole the book, they tried selling it to the Brotherhood of Steel, who wanted no such thing, and that's how the story went. No one wanted to buy the book, but it wasn't long until the thief felt himself being drawn to the obelisk. Now I've covered all of this in a previous video, but I just wanted to show you how similar Fallout and Elder Scrolls can be, especially with Ug-Qualtoth being comparable to that of a Daedric prince. Ug-Qualtoth is a powerful godlike entity with significant supernatural influence. It inspires cults, grants powers, and is associated with dark rituals and ancient artifacts. At a glance, some of these outlandish and far-fetched statements could be possible, and if these weren't outrageous enough, then let's say the Scorch Beasts became dragons, Deathclaws became Argonians, Mirelurk Kings were the first to use dragon shouts, and the Brotherhood of Steel became the Dwemer. Joking aside, the Brotherhood becoming the Dwemer is one of the few things I kind of like. It's not accurate, and it's crazy, but in a good way. We know the Brotherhood hoards technology and human knowledge to prevent it from being lost. Helping people is secondary and somewhat optional. Imagine if they did away with helping people entirely, instead focusing solely on the preservation of technology and knowledge. An elder wanting to push the boundaries of knowledge could discover something eldritch, like the Crifbecnir, and attempt to harness the supernatural powers within using technology. If the Brotherhood were to learn things from another realm, surely they would want to preserve it as best they could to prevent others from learning about it and abusing it. I imagine they would build huge, difficult to find, underground cities full of traps and machines, ensuring the knowledge remains safe, as well as giving them ample room to secretly study and research. All of these theories teeter on whether or not Earth and Nirn are the same planet. If they are, you could say the land is different due to time or some huge cataclysm, and forgotten gods like Ug-Qualtoth reside in the Plains of Oblivion. There is, however, the small fact that Nirn has two moons, Massa and Secunda, while Earth has only one. Fallout's moon does have some mystery, the lunar war and the potential existence of an enclave stronghold, but I don't think there's any logical explanation for the moon to break in half, creating two smaller moons, or for a second moon to just appear, meaning if the Brotherhood did eventually become the Dwemer, then they would have to leave Earth and go to Nirn. So let's say the Brotherhood, with the help of a supernatural entity, travelled to Nirn, and once there they built underground bases, hoarded knowledge, developed airships, and built giant robots to further aid their efforts. In the end, the logistical and thematic leaps required to make this theory possible is highly unlikely, and these theories suggesting Elder Scrolls and Fallout take place in the same universe are just that, suggestions. Nothing has been confirmed. In fact, Bethesda has actually rejected the idea that they share a universe, stating they are separate entities and any connections you find are simple Easter eggs and references, not to be confused with a deeper meaning. Nevertheless, this was a great excuse to learn more about Elder Scrolls, and I do plan to make more content, although Fallout will remain my main focus. Be sure to show your support by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already for more Fallout content. If there's anything you'd like to see in a later video, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. With that said, thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.